Hello everyone, it's Shel C from ShelCPaperOcotilloStudio. Today I'm sharing with you a piece that I did for a collaboration with several other people that has to do with Lisa Frank, who was an artist who made all kinds of really fun, very bright, very cheerful, very, happy art in the 80s. And her stuff was made into folders and pencil cases and just all kinds of types of products that I'll bet a lot of you had. I bet a lot of you collected. They were fun and bright. You know, I love the bright colors, and maybe that was influenced by my childhood with Lisa Frank. I'm not sure. But the company is coming out with a makeup line, and we decided to do a collaboration. Shay 206, I think it is, decided to do a collaboration with all kinds of whatever you wanted to do in whatever you wanted to create, inspired by Lisa Frank. So this piece is what I made. It is a mixed media piece, and I'm starting out with a 8 by 10 140-pound watercolor cardstock. And the first thing I did was to take some papers with paints and things on them that are in bright colors. Remember, got to do bright colors. And I collaged those onto the paper using matte medium. Then now I've got some gelatos. The reason I picked gelatos is because, it's a makeup line coming out. I'm not really sure what, but I'm sure they'll have lipstick. And gelatos always reminds me of lipstick. It's like, you turn the bottom and the color comes up and it's a soft, creamy product. So I thought I would use some gelatos, but I know I'm going to do mixed media. So what I'm doing is using some fluid matte medium to blend the gelato product and make it permanent. Basically, I'm sealing it using that fluid matte medium and a brush. So again, just picking a lot of bright colors. I probably used too much purple in hindsight, but purple's my favorite color, so it's not surprising that I would. It's just that when I put the background on, I'm also using purple, and so I end up with too much purple. If there can be too much purple, I'm not sure there can. So just applying that gelato and sealing it up with the matte medium. Then I decided to add some Dylusions paints because those paints are the brightest colors ever. So I decided to do a little bit of stenciling and using this Harlequin stencil at first and this fresh lime color. And then I switched to, I believe, a teal, Calypso teal maybe, or maybe it's vibrant turquoise, I'm not sure, one of those. And add some more of that color around using the stencil and just using a makeup sponge. See what I did there? So then I switched to a fuchsia color and a different stencil. Just add a little bit of that color. I'm just trying to pick really bright, vibrant colors. And I'm being random. I'm being very, I'm not like super concerned about where I place anything. I just want to make a very, very bright, active, colorful background. Then I thought maybe I better add back in a neutral, so I decided to pick some black archival ink and add in some more pattern and shape using some stamps. These are Stampin' Up! Stamps, are just random shapes that I use for mixed media because I think they're interesting shapes. And that's the only reason. They didn't even all come together. I just put them all in that box together. I think for traveling one time, and then they never went back to their original sets. So once that is done and cleaned up, I am going to do some drawing. My favorite Lisa Frank things, characters, I mean, she had kitties and tiger kitties and monkeys and birds and whatever. And my favorite were always the ocean ones. I had a folder that had dolphins on it, and then I had another folder that had just general sea fish characters and coral on it as if it was like a reef. And reef fish are colorful, but in Lisa Frank's world, reef fish were not the same colors. And I just always really liked them. So I made some drawings on some scratch paper, cut those out, and then, oh, this is where I decided that the white was too white, and so I just went over it with a glaze real quick, using that leftover matte medium and some blue-green PBO acrylic. I made a glaze, put it on, then wiped some of it off just to dull down the extra white. There was just too much white, and so that's why I did that. So then I'm taking my little patterns that I cut out of the scratch paper and just drawing around them onto my colorful background using a Posca pen. The paint's clogging up my pen a little bit. That's the reason why I'm scribble on the side there. That's to get the paint off the tip before it ruins my pen. So I have three little characters, a reef triggerfish, a butterfly fish, and a seahorse. I've never actually seen a seahorse in the ocean. That would be really cool. I've snorkeled quite a few times and I've seen these other fish, but I've never seen a seahorse. I saw an octopus. Maybe I should have drawn an octopus. I don't know. I've seen eels. I've seen all kinds of things, but those three are the ones I could remember from the folder. And then I'm just drawing some coral, just kind of squiggly lines around the bottoms and sides as if they're at the bottom of the sea. Well, at the bottom of the sea by a reef, a coral reef, which is where they would hang out anyway because that's where they eat. So I'm also going to draw some seaweed, like long, thin, those ones that are long and thin and wave in the water as if it's the wind. Have you ever seen that? It's so cool. They just wave back and forth as if they're in the wind, like it's grass in the wind, except for it's seaweed in the water. I'm using a fine tip black Posca pen to do this, and that makes a difference because you'll see what I do in a bit where I switch to a medium tip. I have a set of 15 medium tip, multiple colors, and then I have a set of 8 of the fine tip that I wished was the set of 15 because I missed some of the colors. And then I have, black and white in the Posca. And I'm going to be utilizing those quite a bit. So once my drawing is complete, I know it's kind of hard to see on the video, I get out some ivory black acrylic and some dioxazine purple acrylic. You know how the water gets darker as you go closer to the bottom and away from the light. So I was going to do black at the bottom and purple at the top and blend in between. If I remember correctly, I think that's what my folder was like. I think it was purple at the top and black at the bottom. It's been a long time, but I think that's what it was like. So I was kind of trying to do that. And I picked the ivory black acrylic. It's a Liquitex Basics because I originally wanted some of the background pattern to show through. And then I did change my mind. So I ended up having to go over that part again using a more opaque paint, which is the Deco Art. No, I think I used the Golden Fluid Carbon Black, which you'll see me change. I needed to make this video shorter because it is for a collaboration, so I've cut quite a bit of it, just jumping from section to section, especially in this part because this took a really long time. I think the project overall took me about 2 hours 15 minutes, and I've condensed it down to 15 minutes, or maybe 16. I'm not sure. So that's where I get out the fluid acrylic. Now see, it's much more opaque. It's not letting anything show through at all. I usually like that look of the you know, the interesting patterns showing through, but this just, because I think because it was so busy with all the coral and the, you know, the seaweed, and it's a really busy pattern. I didn't think it needed that excess pattern in the background. It just made everything confusing to look at. So I went over all that black. And then, of course, the top part is filled in with the dioxazine purple, which is a dark color, a dark purple. But I wanted that effect of it being darker coming up to lighter. So I think it looks pretty cool. I'm pretty happy with it. So then once I dried that thing out, then I'm switching to my medium tip black Posca pen, and I'm cleaning up the lines. You know how when you're painting with the paintbrush, you might not get a perfect line, especially if you're trying to get in between things, and you know what I mean. Plus the areas where things intersected, like the seahorses intersecting with the seaweed in the back of it, it's supposed to be flowing over the back of it. The lines were too thin, they weren't defined enough. And so I went in with the black medium tip pen instead of the fine and cleaned all that up. If you know what I mean. I also used this pen to add detail. Of course, the three characters are just blobs, and they need to have their fins drawn in, and the lines between the body and the fins, and their eyes, and you know, all that type of stuff. The detail to make them look more like what they should look like instead of just colorful blobs. So I used that medium tip black Posca to do that as well. And then when I was happy with all that, then I started in adding some detail to my characters using colorful pens, and basically the same colors that are in the background. I didn't color in anything because that would be defeating the purpose of making that colorful background. I just used the bright colors to add some stripes in the fins, and you know, color in the eyes, maybe a little bit of color on some of the, like the lips of the triggerfish, or just things, just adding color using the yellow and the orange and the blue and the purple and the pink. Lots of times fins look like they're striped, so I did a lot of striping of fins for sure. If you are enjoying this video, remember to give it a thumbs up, leave me a comment so I know you were here, subscribe if you haven't already, and share if you want to. Also, down in the description box below the video, there is links to lots of other people who have done projects for this collaboration. So be sure to go check them out and give their channels some love. I haven't seen anything yet that they've done, but I'll bet it's awesome. And thanks again to Shay for thinking about this idea and creating this collaboration. So the animals characters are starting to fill out with extra color. And although this doesn't look exactly like what Lisa Frank would do, I think it's very much inspired by her style and the bright colors that she uses. And I think that adding in the extra details with the bright colored Posca pens adds a lot of character to the characters. It's adding character to the characters. So then in the background that I painted over, I drew in bubbles using my fine white Posca pen. lots of bubbles. I wanted to break up all that blank space. Since everything down at the bottom is super busy, I wanted the top to have more busyness. And of course, fish always seem to give off bubbles, and so do the corals. I guess it's oxygenating the ocean, oxygenating the water. And I thought that added quite an interesting detail as well. So at the end of the video, there'll be some close-up pictures so you can really get a good look at everything. And I think that I'm almost done. So that's it for me. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.